The drama between the Baltimore Ravens and Marcus Williams heats up after their loss to the Cleveland Browns in Week 8. We talk about what's going on, as well as Eddie Jackson talking about Zach Orr, all that and more coming up next here on this episode of Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of Locked On Ravens, or daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher, Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for being here on this, unfortunately, not so Victory Monday, making Locked On Ravens both a part of your day and your first listen each and every day. You're free and available for you all podcasting platforms. That includes a video form on YouTube where you can like and subscribe to the channel. Also an audio form where you can follow along and subscribe as well. We bring you 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage. Today's edition of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Ravens lose 29-24 to the Cleveland Browns in week number 8, dropped to 5-3 on the year. Just a super disappointing overall game. I know now we've had a little bit of time to process everything. We did an instant reaction episode yesterday on the show, and that one, there was definitely some fire in me on that one because it was still fresh at that point. It was just so frustrating to kind of watch what unfold. But we have a lot to talk about today, mainly because there was some drama going on. Marcus Williams was benched in this game. John Harbaugh was asked about that after the game, and it's kind of heating up right now. So we'll talk about the latest on Marcus Williams and what this whole thing could mean, even when it comes to just trades and what the Ravens could do with Marcus moving forward and kind of what the whole situation is with him. Then in the second part of the show, continue talking about the Ravens secondary, but with Eddie Jackson, who had some comments about Zach Orr. Of course, Eddie Jackson did not have a great game, and that's putting it pretty lightly, if we're being honest. So talk about what Eddie Jackson had to say and kind of what went on there about Zach Orr, because again, I know Zach Orr is also getting a lot of heat right now for the performance on Sunday. Then finally, we'll just talk about some, generally what happened in that Ravens and Browns game, because there was just so much that happened and so many different plays you could point to of like, oh, well, this is the play that lost the game. Well, that's the play that lost the game. There's just so much of that. So without any further ado, let's just get into our content here. Marcus Williams, look, we know what's going on with Marcus Williams right now. He is graded out as one of the worst, if not the worst, safety in many, many different categories this season. It's been, a fall for Marcus Williams. It has. We can admit that, where when he was healthy his first couple years in Baltimore after signing that 5-year, $70 million deal, he was good. He was good when he was healthy, but it hasn't worked out for him this season, and he's been a major part of a struggling secondary. Well, Baltimore in this game really shocks everybody, and Marcus Williams does not play in this game. It's Eddie Jackson or Darius Washington play in this game. They're kind of rotating in and out, and everybody's kind of shocked of like, whoa. And I know, look, I certainly will eat my words here, because I was kind of saying, oh, the Ravens, they're not going to move on from Marcus Williams. They're just going to kind of ride it out. And, I mean, here we are. So John Harbaugh was asked after the game about Marcus Williams and, okay, well, why was he benched? What's going on there? And called it a personnel issue. So that's what it was classified as by the organization. Again, a personnel issue. The full quote here is, quote, "It was a personnel decision. We're kind of working through some things there, which I feel very confident Marcus is going to be out there playing great football for the rest of the season. It's an internal type situation." Internal type situation. When you hear internal type situation, or just internal situation in general, it kind of makes the gears turn, and not really in the best way. It's like, oh, well, what happened? What did he do wrong? What's getting handled internally? I mean, did he say something, do something? Was this just a pure benching for a week and, just because of his play? What's happening? I mean, there's a lot that goes on here, and a lot that can happen because, the Ravens, I mean, this was outright like, okay, this guy's not playing this game, which kind of signals that something might have happened. Again, we don't know at the time of this recording if anything what it actually was. John Harbaugh, again, denied in this instance to actually clarify what happened. But here's the thing. When we are talking about maybe where this all started or were there any, signs of this happening, Eddie Jackson or Darius Washington, they both spoke to the media and again said that they found out early in the week, last week, that they were going to be starting, I think Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, is what they said. But then you go back and Cordell Woodland, who does great work over at 105.7, he ended up asking Marcus Williams on a role change. Has your role changed essentially? And Marcus said, according to Cordell here, quote, "I don't really know. I just do my job. Whatever they ask of me, I'm going to do it," end quote. So that's kind of like that's a little interesting there. And we know that in this game, the Ravens certainly struggled in the secondary, even without Marcus, right? This is not just Marcus is the only problem in the secondary type of deal. And, I kind of made it was a little bit of a joke at the time about like, Marcus Williams is looking at the Ravens saying, "Oh, look what's happening without me. The problems are still there." But that doesn't mean Marcus was playing good before. We talk about all the dropped interceptions that happened yesterday, all the miscommunications that happened yesterday. It's not like Marcus wasn't having miscommunications or wasn't, contributing to what was going on. He was. But you can't bench everybody in that secondary. They were down 2 starting corners, obviously, in Marlon Humphrey and Nate Wiggins. But for a guy like Marcus, they have a lot of money invested into him. A lot. Again, I mentioned that 5-year, $70 million deal. And so just for reference, just so we can visualize, or maybe not visualize, but just so we can kind of look at his contract details, the out for him would be next season. Now, they would have to do a little bit of, I don't want to say gymnastics here for the contract, but they would save about $3 million. And I'm going to pull it up quickly here just so I have the exact numbers in front of me. But they would save, I believe, $3 million in the cap hit. So here we go. Yep. It's about 18.7 next year. His cap hit is $18.7 million. His dead cap would be 15.5. So they would save 3.2 million by cutting him next season. If they decide to wait until 2026, it would be 20.7 is his cap hit, with 9.3 being his dead cap. So you would save over $10 million if you were to wait until 2026. If it's not working out, something's going on, they're probably just going to cut him next year. And that would be that, because they don't want to have that. So a little bit shocking to kind of see how this is all unfolded. It's kind of unfolded pretty quickly. But, I mean, look, we all can admit Marcus wasn't playing good to start the season. He was playing quite poorly. And a change certainly needed to happen. They tried it. And, then you talk about a guy like Eddie Jackson, who, in my opinion, had one of the worst games ever from a Baltimore Raven in the franchise's history. And that can sometimes be thrown around a little bit, right? That can sometimes be thrown around. But I really am not exaggerating. It was really bad. And one of the main reasons why the Ravens ended up losing this game was because of the defense, because of the personnel dropping interceptions, obviously, because of the play calling of Zach Orr. And Eddie Jackson, after the game, was talking about Zach Orr a little bit. He was one of the guys that obviously stepped in for Marcus. And the Ravens have a situation now where what do they do at the safety position? There are some guys that are available. I don't think a team's going to want to go out there and trade for Marcus Williams, especially with that contract. So Baltimore, at least for the rest of this season, if anything, is, I guess, stuck with Marcus Williams in that deal. But it is a little bit telling, I guess, that John Harbaugh went out there and said that, he expects Marcus to play good ball for the rest of the season. I mean, I guess that's a sign that, maybe this was like a one-game thing. I don't really know. We're probably not going to get clarification. If we do, obviously we'll talk about it, but I don't know. It just kind of came out of nowhere and didn't really help in the grand scheme of things. I know they tried, but yeah, didn't necessarily help. But coming up in the second part of the show, we'll be talking about Eddie Jackson. And of course, the big topic of conversation is Zach Orr. Jackson talked about Zach Orr. We'll talk about those comments as well as just what went on defensively for this team in week 8. So be sure to stay tuned, play, and talk about it on the show. First, the show is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has tools to find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. So for me, I've had a ton of great experiences over on LinkedIn, whether it's finding jobs, networking, connecting. LinkedIn has everything you need. LinkedIn is just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And the show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to up to 100 times the cash. Earn your game all season long on Prize Picks. And I love going on Prize Picks, seeing everything they have to offer. You can earn up to 100 times the money on Prize Picks. Well, as well as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. So for the Ravens and Browns game in week 8, if you had Zay Flowers more receiving yards, you're probably living large over on Prize Picks. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. We're back. Our second segment, Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher still here with you on this Monday edition of the show. Again, really appreciate everybody for being here today, making Locked On Ravens both a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. Be sure to like and subscribe in video form, as well as follow along and subscribe in audio form. The video community is growing at such a rapid pace. We're almost at 9,000 subscribers. So if you're a part of the video community, thank you for your consistent support. And if you're a part of the audio community, which also is growing at such a rapid rate, be sure to subscribe and follow along there. And I want to thank you for your support over there as well. The communities are growing, and it's really cool to be able to see everything move so quickly here on Locked On Ravens. And we're only going up. We're only growing on Locked On Ravens. And if you have a friend or a family member who is a Ravens fan or just wants 5 days a week of Ravens coverage, be sure to send them over here our way on Locked On Ravens. Now, one more thing about the Marcus Williams situation quickly before we move on to Zach Orr, which I know is a big topic of conversation alongside Eddie Jackson, is I don't know what happened here with Marcus Williams, but you're already thin in the secondary. Your secondary is already struggling. And look, Marcus, as we mentioned, right, not playing well. But you're essentially like moving Ardarius around, corner to safety. You're already looking like you're going to be down Marlon early in the week. Nate obviously has the shoulder and the illness type of deal. There were situations where, okay, whatever happened here with Marcus Williams, if this was like he said something or did something or whatever it was like internal team discipline or whatnot, I'm not saying that is what happened. I'm saying if that was the case. I mean, it must have been like, okay, you can't, you have to punish him this week. They were already thin in the secondary. You get thinner in the secondary. And, Marcus Williams, does he come in and solve everything that happened yesterday? Probably not, right? Based off the way he was playing. But man, it's just, it's kind of that well, what happened factor? I have no idea. But again, one of the players that ended up seeing a lot more time with Marcus being benched was Eddie Jackson, who just was terrible. I mean, we can be honest. It's so unfortunate that we have to say it that way, but we have to be honest. It was a bad Eddie Jackson game. And, Eddie's a guy that, has had a couple of miscues this season. And, obviously he's not been as bad as Marcus has been, definitely in terms of the stats. I mean, I haven't looked completely into the advanced stuff, but Marcus, again, is graded out as one of the worst safeties in the league this year. And, Eddie didn't play as much as Marcus, but again, it's like contractually with the money the Ravens poured into Marcus and everything, it's been super disappointing. Now, Eddie Jackson, multiple dropped interceptions in week 8, multiple blown coverages in week 8, multiple plays directly resulting in touchdowns in week 8. And that really was just the tip of the iceberg for the entire Ravens defense. Around 5 dropped interceptions for this team, with Eddie Jackson having 2 of them. And Jackson was asked, because for those who obviously saw the game and watched the game, the way the Ravens defended late was essentially cover zero. And cover zero is, you're blitzing all your guys, you're trying to generate quick pressure. And with cover zero, if you don't get home, you're pretty much probably going to give up a big play, if not a touchdown. And so obviously Kyle Hamilton has just one of the worst dropped interceptions I've ever seen. And Eddie Jackson ends up having to cover Cedric Tillman one-on-one and just gets blown by. He gets sent deep after. This is the play right after the Kyle Hamilton interception. And it's a touchdown. And Eddie Jackson was asked about that and said cover zero is tough, but he has to play better. And look, he took accountability for it, right? He did. But at the same time, he said, yeah, cover zero, that's a tough thing with that. And look, you're essentially left on an island. You're left on an island as a defensive back when something like that happens. Because if you don't get that pressure, if you're a defense, well, all of a sudden, you're leaving your defensive backs in one-on-one situations, and it's not going to be a good time. And that's part of the reason why, if you go back to Don Martindale, and it's actually, I tweeted a picture of Don Martindale because this is exactly what lost the Ravens multiple games. That's what it is. Now, with Eddie, here's why the Ravens did this, at least in my opinion. The Ravens weren't stopping anything defensively, right? The pass rush wasn't getting home. The rush, it was very inconsistent all game. And so Eddie Jackson here, the full quote, it's not a long one. He said, cover zero is a tough spot, but I have to play it better. It's as simple as that. And Eddie Jackson on Zach Orr also said, we just have to come out there and make the plays. Coach Zach Orr is putting us in that position to make those plays. We just have to get out of this funk that we're in. So, look, Eddie Jackson and this defense, hey, Zach Orr, we're in the position to make plays. We're getting put in the position by Zach Orr. We can be honest about, the Zach Orr situation. Hasn't been great. When Zach Orr was brought in as the new guy after Mike McDonald departed, I had said, if you've been listening to me on Locked On Ravens, I had said this is going to be a process. It's not going to be sunshine and rainbows. I didn't expect it to last this long. And Zach Orr's not out there dropping interceptions, right? Zach Orr's not out there blowing the coverages and whatnot. But we can be honest, part of this is on Zach Orr. One, just to have his players ready in general. But two, we're seeing questionable play calls. We're seeing questionable coverage looks. It's just everything. And it's a young defensive coordinator, young, new play caller, inexperienced guy trying to work through things. This is a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, right? It's a team that can't afford that type of stuff. Because even though we knew it was going to be an adjustment period, we are essentially a halfway point. We're at a halfway point in the season right now. We're 8 weeks in, 2 months in, and it's still some of the same old stuff. So they bring in Dean Pease kind of to help out things. It hasn't really helped out all that much. The secondary is just in shambles. And yes, they miss Marlon Humphrey. They miss Nate Wiggins in this game. But they also played Jameis Winston. And I had said this is going to tell us a lot of this next month. It's going to tell us a lot about who this team is. Cleveland, Denver, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh. And they're not off to a very good start. And I don't know what the Ravens have to do here. Obviously, I think they now definitely need to go out there and get somebody to bring into the secondary, especially if we're not going to play Marcus. Who knows what's going on with Marcus right now? But even when Marlon and Nate come back, I think just a secondary member is needed, particularly at safety, right? Corner-wise, you can get away with saying, okay, it's Marlon, it's Brandon Stevens, Nate Wiggins, Let's back, or Darius, all that. I get it. Safety-wise, I think you probably need somebody else. I think even if it's just to bring somebody in to get a new face in there, you probably have to do it at this point. So just a rough game defensively all the way around to Jameis Winston, which makes it so much more frustrating. But coming up with the fun part of the show, we'll talk about where it all went wrong for this Ravens team and just how they bounce back from everything. We'll talk about a game recap as well. So be sure to stay tuned, plenty to talk about on the show. First of the show is brought to you by Game Time. There's so much hype around watching basketball live, especially the atmosphere and everything that goes with it. You have celebrity sightings, the sound from the court, and the feel of the crowd. And for me, I'm a big Denver Nuggets guy. It hasn't really been a great start to the year so far for the Nuggets, but whenever the Nuggets go and play in DC, I always try to go when I can. I have a ton of memories doing that as a kid, and hopefully I get to do it a lot more over the course of many, many years to come. But Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks photos out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Plus, Game Time has tickets for all events, not just sports. So obviously, Ravens' big home game against the Broncos in week number 9. And so for tickets about that, be sure to go on Game Time Picks. They have super deals and other tiers of deals. Plus, the app has so many cool features such as Game Time Picks, seat views, lowest price guarantee, Game Time ticket coverage, and so much more. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Join us by again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL, spelled LOCKED1NFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. And this show is brought to you by DK Law Group. When you need a law firm, do you want the legal runaround, or would you rather have a no-nonsense approach? Well, you get the latter with DK Law Group. DK Law Group is a Maryland-based law firm who is redefining the legal process with their modern approach. DK Law Group specializes in real estate law, estate planning, business law, and family law. They're tech-savvy. They treat clients like family, and they focus on keeping your legal solutions simple. DK Law Group is a woman-led firm with Diana Khan at the helm. Diana has been called an unparalleled legal expert by some. One of the things you'll quickly notice with DK Law Group is their transparent pricing. They believe in clarity and cost, and no one left in limbo. DK Law Group knows that speed is key, but leveraging technology, DK Law Group streamlines the process to serve you better and faster. Contact DK Law Group today at dklawmd.com. Locked on listeners and call today to schedule a free 30-minute consultation when you understand the tagline, Empowering Legacies. We're back. Our final segment, Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher here with you on this Monday edition of the show. Again, Ravens tough loss to the Cleveland Browns, 29-24. Really appreciate everybody for rocking out with me here on Locked On Ravens today. I know it can be tough listening to content on your favorite team after they lose, so really appreciate it. I truly do. We bring you 5 days a week of daily Ravens coverage, and we do bonus episodes. Go live after every single game. We have so much Ravens content here for you. Win, lose, hopefully not tie. You know, we despise ties here on Locked On Ravens. But if you're an everydayer, thank you for tuning into the show every single day. If you're somewhere in the middle of maybe an everydayer and a new listener, thank you for tuning in. And if you are a new listener, welcome in to the show. Now, let's talk about the game a little bit, where it all went wrong for this Ravens team. And if we really had the super in-depth conversation on where it went wrong, we'd be sitting here for probably about a day, 24 hours talking about it. But Ravens lose 29-24. Just a brutal game for this Ravens team, execution-wise, play calling-wise, sloppiness-wise, mistake-wise. I mean, we could go on and on and on and on about it. It was just a weird game for the coordinators. We talked about Zach Orr a lot and just kind of the interesting decisions and what went into that. Really bad Todd Monken game here. Really bad Todd Monken game, right? I think the momentum could have been a lot better for the Ravens if they had just converted on that 4th and 1 early. But it's a wildcat play to Derrick Henry, takes the ball out of Lamar Jackson's hands. That takes like 9/10 of the threat of your offense away when you do that. Because now that defense, and I talked about this on a live show, Lamar has such a gravity to him. And the thing about being Lamar Jackson is you're Lamar Jackson, right? Teams have to follow you. Teams have to account for you, even if you don't get the ball or don't have the ball. But the defense doesn't know that. They have to account for it. So when you take the ball out of his hands, it's ruining like most of what makes your offense successful. So they get stopped there. They come away with no points. You have Derrick Henry and you have Lamar Jackson. Use them together. That is what has gotten you this historic level offense. And they just didn't do it. They had a 3rd and 1. And they put Charlie Kolar under center. And he false starts. Like, just put Lamar under center. Put Ricard back there, put Derrick Henry back there, and run the ball. It's that simple. It's that simple. You have drops galore. You know, Rashad Bateman, 2 really bad drops. Other guys had drops as well. So, you know, hopefully, and we'll talk about it if it happens, hopefully we're not going to hear any, Lamar needs to do this, do that. You know, Lamar wasn't his best day. What wasn't his best day? But late in the game, he also put that Superman cape on and tried to win it for him. But he did miss some throws early. Couple he'd definitely like to have back for sure. A couple of throws that definitely should have been intercepted that were not. But Lamar is so far down on the list of things that caused the Ravens to lose this game. There were some throws that, yeah, if he hit on those, would have made a big impact. But easy dropped interceptions, bad play calling, bad drops in general, like all of that and so much more contributes. And so when you look at the quarterback comparison here, look, Lamar Jackson goes 23 for 38 for 60.5 completion percentage, 289 yards with 2 touchdowns. Jameis Winston, on the other hand, 27 for 41, 65.9%, 334, 3 touchdowns for him, no interceptions. That's the problem here, all right? That's the problem here. What is the problem, you may ask? The Ravens let Jameis Winston look like prime Lamar, look like prime Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, made him look like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And that's with all his mistakes. That's with all those mistakes. The Ravens dropped 5 interceptions. They couldn't take advantage of it. Jameis Winston on that last interception, or should have been an interception to Kyle Hamilton, he threw it to Kyle Hamilton. That throw was so far off base, and the Ravens couldn't capitalize on it. The Ravens couldn't capitalize. This was a team loss. They say a win is a team, you lose as a team. This was a pure team loss. Special teams, Justin Tucker misses a field goal. They have penalties galore there. There was just so much, because usually you can think about 1 or 2 plays that cost you a game. They had like 10 or 15 plays that you can point to, and if there's 1 or 2 of those plays hit, go a different way, we're talking about a different ball games. When you look at the game recap here, I mean, Baltimore gets outgained by Cleveland, not by a ton, right? Only by 14 yards, but passing yards wise, Cleveland has more yards per pass. Cleveland pushed the ball down the field a little more. Baltimore averaged more yards per play. But here, to me, is where the Ravens, again, one of the areas, I guess, because there were many, that Baltimore lost this game at. The Ravens went 2 for 10 on third down. 2 for 10. 20% on third down. Meanwhile, Cleveland was over 50%. 8 for 15. 53.3%. You have to convert on your third downs, and the Ravens were just, Cleveland's defense was getting off the field, and the Ravens' defense wasn't. The pass rush was awful in this game again. I could argue, and I think many other people would agree with me here, that the Ravens need both a pass rusher and a member of the secondary and a wide receiver. They need all 3 of them. Now, do they go out there and actually make all 3 of those moves? Probably not. But they need something, because the pass rush has not been good recently. I mean, where is it off Iowa? David Ojabo was a healthy scratch in this game, right? It's issue after issue piling up for the defense. And then your offense kind of sputters out for multiple different reasons. And that's disaster. But this is a 1-6 football team, or at least they were a 1-6 football team that the Ravens just lost to. Now you have 3 losses. And if I did the math right, the Ravens are the only team in the AFC above 500 with 3 AFC losses. That's rough. That's really bad. And we talked about how important that Cincinnati win was, because it was an AFC divisional game, and it's going to be really good down the pipe when the Ravens are fighting for playoff positioning. Well, the Chiefs are still undefeated. The Steelers play tonight against New York, so we'll see how that unfolds. But this is a game that you really could have had, and you just beat yourself. That's my ultimate, takeaway from this game. At least one of them is the Ravens beat themselves again. They did it again, and that's the disappointing part, because the last team to beat the Ravens was Cleveland last year. And what I mean by that is the Ravens have beaten themselves ever since that Cleveland game, and even last year, the Ravens beat themselves against Indy, against Pittsburgh that year. Obviously, Cleveland beat them. Against Kansas City, they beat themselves. And then you have a game in Las Vegas. Not in Las Vegas, but against Las Vegas, they beat themselves. Kansas City, toe on the line. Kansas City, you could argue. But, man, I mean, just mistake after mistake after mistake. It's an undisciplined team in a lot of areas right now. And it's not the first time we're saying that. And at the end of the day, John Harbaugh, these coaches have to have their guys ready. They're not out there making those plays. It's both on the personnel, the players, and on the coaches. This was a team loss again, but it just has to get better, because for a team with Super Bowl aspirations, they're just too sloppy right now in multiple different facets of the game. The Ravens didn't really get Derrick Henry involved in this one either. Only 11 carries in this game. Not necessarily something that I was expecting. I thought that Baltimore was going to be able to run the ball a little more than they did, but at the end of the day, they just never really got that going. And again, I think that sweet spot for Derrick Henry was probably right in that 17 to 21 carry range, but only 11 for 73 in this game. Did get in the end zone late, but I wish they would utilize Derrick Henry a little bit more. Wish they would have in this game. But Ravens lose, and we have a lot more to talk about over the course of the week. That's all I have for you here today on Locked On Ravens. But be sure on the way out, hit that like and subscribe button in video form. Follow along in audio form as well, because we have so much to dive into and so much to break down when it comes to this team and how they can get back on track. Coming up tomorrow, we'll have more daily Ravens coverage for you. Of course, so be sure to stay tuned to see right back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens.